Hey guys, real quick deep dive this week. The reason why I'm making this is because as of recording this, I've seen about a handful of dead possums on and next to the road. And knowing what I know now, pardon my language, but that's a damn shame. And I feel like they're a misunderstood animal, like many. And I'm hoping that by making this and sharing some cool facts that I know about them, that maybe you might be a little bit more careful when you're driving if you know that they're in your area to keep an eye out for them. If you're the kind of person that hunts them, maybe go to a different kind of game. They're they're not the ugly faced rat tailed pests that I thought they were when I was a kid. I have learned more about them and have definitely done a complete 180 on them. I'm hoping that the video that I'm making will kind of turn you around to them because they really are a fascinating creature. The opossum, or possum, as they're called in my area, both are perfectly acceptable. Some people drop the O, some people keep the O. For the sake of this video and continuity, and so I don't have to keep correcting myself, they're going to be possums. If you call them opossums and it's driving you nuts that I'm calling them possums, I apologize in advance. But anyway, so a little bit about these guys. So they, the species, sorry, is about 20 million years old, and they did come to I live in North America, so they did come to us from the land bridge back in the Ice Age when it was connecting the two continents. I'm sure you might be aware of that. If not, it's pretty neat. There's a lot that land bridge did when it comes to tribes and animals and basically a lot of stuff migrating. They are no exception. So now they are our one and only marsupial in North America and Canada. And, well, they are not the ugly faced animals that I used to think that they were. Apparently, some of the most common photos are of them giving their threatened face, which I admit is pretty ghastly. It's, that really scary, nasty looking face. And, well, come on, there's a photographer taking a picture. It looks like a predator. Obviously, the most common photos are going to be of that. If you see pictures of a happy possum, if you see pictures of a baby possum, they actually can be pretty stinking cute. If you don't care for that rat tail that they have, well, guess what? That thing is actually fascinating. It's prehensile. So they have that advantage, much like some monkeys, that they can use that tail as an extra limb. Things so strong they can hang from it. They use it for a lot of different stuff. They can use it to pick up stuff, hang from it. So it's actually really useful, not just in balance, like most tails are used for, but in fact, they can use it as an extra limb. Thought that was awesome. But since they are a marsupial, that means they have a pouch, much like a kangaroo. And I found out the reason for this is because they have a very unique placenta where it's actually very thin and only partially functional. So by nature, all of their babies end up being born premature. And so they have to climb into the pouch and then hang out there for the rest of their gestation period until they are old enough to forage and wean themselves off their mom's milk. But in the meantime, that mom is carrying all of their babies. I believe they have litters up to 20. Not all of them survive because not all of them can get into the pouch and find a teat to suckle on, but a mother possum could be carrying upwards of 13 kids. Now, as they get bigger, as you can imagine, that's going to get heavier. So they're going to be moving a lot slower. So if you're not ready for the sad stuff, then go ahead and change the channel. But the odds are that if you see a possum dead on or next to the road, it's probably a mom that is probably carrying babies that might still be alive inside of her that are going to now die a slow death because they don't have a mom to wean them off. And they can technically, if you're that type of person, which I have read some stories that some people are, if you're the type of person to take them and feed them until they can actually eat out on their own, then that takes not only a lot of effort, and it is worth it. I mean, I hear that usually when that happens, then the babies will come every night to the back porch to say hi. It's kind of like a thank you slash friendly family thing. So they're actually very, very sweet. They're a very sweet animal. And the tragic thing about that is that even those babies that were saved, they're only going to live to be a few years old. They actually have a tragically short life for an animal of that size. They are the size of a cat, but have about the life cycle of a squirrel, which is one of the reasons why they do reproduce so much. And another reason why they do so well and they've been sticking around for 20 million years is because they are opportunistic eaters. So they will basically eat whatever the environment provides for them. They're very omnivorous. So there's some regions where there's a lot of fungus, so they eat a lot of mushrooms. Or there's areas where there's a lot of plant and small animals, and then they'll eat those. But for the most part, what they are is insectivores. They usually eat a lot of insects, and that's where it becomes very important because in my area, especially, ticks are everywhere. They get worse every year. Lyme disease is a very real, very scary thing. My dog has the Lyme vaccine and a flea and tick collar, and I still check her every time she comes inside when she's been trying to go through the tall grass and eat some. It's her thing. My dog's a forager, is always getting ticks on her. Thankfully, because of the preventative measures, we don't find them dug in because we're very vigilant, but I always worry about that. So possums are one of these very rare, pretty rare in the animal kingdom. I mean, we have, these great limbs that we can get to pretty much all the spaces on us and get ticks off, but most animals in the wild can't. Now, not only can possums de-tick themselves, but then they'll eat them as well. So in any given year during tick season, one possum will consume 5,000 ticks. So just wrap your mind around that. That is one of the biggest benefits that they offer is that for as many ticks as you come across when you're hiking and stuff, imagine how many more it would be if we didn't have possums in our lives, okay? They are super helpful when it comes to that. So they are far from this nasty species that I used to think of when I was a kid. So I'm not saying that you intentionally hit them with your car, but if you're driving and they're in your area, please be really careful and just keep an ever vigilant eye. If you hunt them, what are you doing? Knock it off. There's plenty of other stuff you could hunt, like deer. If you didn't get your quota of deer, then maybe you can talk to somebody because that's what's infuriating is that deer are pests and they're overpopulated, and yet there's limited hunting on them. Possums are not overpopulated at all, and yet there is absolutely no limit on the amount that you can kill. I, I think it's a big testament to most people would consider a deer to be very cute, and based on the photos that we usually get out of them, a possum to not be very cute. And I think that's very telling in the ones that we seem to want to save and the ones that we seem to want to kill. So, something to think about, but like I said, I see them on the side of the road. I felt like I had to do what little I could. Maybe just make a video that maybe 5 people will watch, and maybe one of those people will actually start to look at possums in a slightly different light. But, oh, yeah, so I'm sure that you're aware of their ability to play dead. Playing possum is, in fact, a very common thing. I thought I knew everything about that, but as I'm doing a deep dive to try and let you guys know a little bit more about them, like the whole, 20 million years old, came across on the land bridge thing, that whole playing possum thing was always kind of weird to me, where I was like, well, why would playing dead keep a predator from eating you? Isn't that better? It's just like, oh my god, I don't even have to chase him down. This is fantastic. Well, it's not just playing dead. It's actually pretty crazy. So first of all, this is not a conscious thing that they're doing. It's actually an auto response. So much like fainting, it actually pretty much is fainting. They have absolutely no control over it. So when they're doing that, oh, I'm feeling threatened, horrified face, that's voluntary. But when they suddenly just drop dead, quote unquote, they have no control over that. And it isn't just the looking dead. We're talking they could actually get picked up by the predator, flung around a little bit. They will be completely limp, completely unresponsive. But also, and this is where it makes a little bit more sense, they have a sac that will excrete a nasty smell. So not only does it look, to all intents and purposes, when the predator noses them that they're dead, but also they smell like a pretty far along corpse. So the predator thinks, okay, this is not a freshly dead animal. This is a pretty well dead animal, and if I eat it, I'll probably get sick from spoiled meat. So then they move along to the next thing. Half an hour to an hour later, the possum will suddenly wake up and then go about its day. And it actually makes so much more sense than, say, extra long claws to swipe at a predator's face. It's just, nope. I'm going to make it seem like I am not worth the trouble. You go about your day, I go about mine. We don't have to have this epic battle fight that one may win, one might not. One might come away scarred and then you die from their wounds festering like a little bit later. It's actually a really smart, really effective defense mechanism. One of the many reasons why they've been around for so long. And yeah, now that I know a little bit more about it, it makes so much more sense. Just like, oh, they don't just look, but they also smell dead. So I thought that was pretty fascinating too. I thought I knew everything about them, and I learned a little bit more by doing a deep dive to try to educate you. So in a way, thank you for that, because I always love turning my head around when it comes to animals. Once I learned that of all 800 species of tarantula, not one of them has enough venom to kill you unless you happen to be allergic, which is extremely rare. And immediately that somehow helped me get over my fear of tarantulas, because they're very recognizable, and if you encounter one in the wild, you know that it ain't gonna kill you. You're gonna walk away. Maybe it'll hurt, but you're not gonna be dead. Same thing with possums. I was like, oh my god, it's gonna bite me and it has rabies and all that stuff. It's a pest. It's gonna get into my trash. It's like, no. They're actually really, really super cool. Great for the environment. At this point, I'm repeating myself, but I hope this was helpful and useful. It certainly was for me, just even getting to know a little bit more about the animals that I'd already done a 180 about. But yeah, it was kind of tragic to find out that almost every one of those guys on the side of the road is probably a mom with slowly dying babies in its belly. So please be careful out there. Give the possum some love. Don't go up to it and literally hug it, but definitely, maybe you'll think twice now. But I appreciate you giving me the time. I know it's weird to wax poetic about something like a possum, but the more you find out about certain types of animals, especially what you might originally consider to be the ugly ones, you might find out they're actually doing a lot more for you than you have been for them. And, maybe show them some respect. I know that I am glad that I now do. So, and if you didn't before, I mean, don't feel bad. Again, like I said, when I was a kid, I thought they were, hideous little, cretins. And now I don't. And hopefully, maybe some of you don't now either. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.